you don't have a relationship with God. You actually have a relationship with yourself. I have been reflecting on my own Christian journey. I'm no longer a Christian. I would consider myself an agnostic, atheist as it relates to the Bible God. I spent 30 years as an evangelical, fundamental, Bible thumping, tongue talking preacher, pastor, and 48 years as an evangelical Christian. And as I've reflected back on those 48 years and then the 30 years of teaching and preaching, I realized I never had a relationship with God, right? Like God doesn't exist, at least as I can only speak from my own former religious perspectives. As it relates to the Bible God, the Christian God, like that God doesn't exist. And and I had that epiphany this morning when I woke up. I was just thinking, who did I have a relationship with? Well, clearly, like just myself. Like I had a relationship with myself. And this is where we can get into a little bit of again, I can only tell you my personal experience. Though I would say and suggest or put this out there that if you're a Christian, you don't have a relationship with Almighty God. You have a relationship with Almighty you, yourself. And there's actually a movie, isn't there? I think Me, Myself, and I, or something that had Jim Carrey in it. Anyway, I that just popped into my head right now. And I haven't even had, this is my second cup of coffee, so I haven't even had that much coffee yet. Anyway, but as I've reflected on my own personal journey as a Christian for the majority of my life, I'm 55. So, 48 of the 55 years were spent as a Christian and believing all the stuff that I believed as an evangelical, a fundamental literalist. So everything in the Bible is true. If you want to know more of my why I left Christianity, I have other videos in on my channel about that. So scroll through and find one. Maybe I'll post one down below in the description here. But the reality is, and again, I just thought about all this morning, and was going to record tomorrow, but I thought, no, I've got to put this down today. And I was thinking to myself and asking myself, who was I in a relationship with, right? And there is that duality in all of us, right? There is the the better part of my nature, and then there's the less best part of my nature. And this is true of everybody. Everybody has the side of us that is just full of love and wants to do good, and then we have that other part of us that's just there. I mean, it's the duality of life. When I was a Christian, it was the God side of me and then the devil side of me, or the good part of, the God that was in me that wanted to do good, the good nature, or the spirit, whatever I said back then. I've been out about 6 years now through my deconstruction and reconstruction. Now I have to really think about, what did I think back then? Anyway, but there was always this internal struggle. Even as a Christian, I remember the verses that I would throw out when I would preach, and I would talk about, crucify the flesh, and the body is an enemy to the Spirit of God within us. And there was always this good and evil, the struggle between good and evil, the good nature of man and the bad nature of man, or the good part of man and the evil part of man, whatever. And that was a thing that we talked about quite a bit in Christian circles. But the more I've analyzed that in my own self, because though my life has changed dramatically, I still have those thoughts of which would be the better thing to do? You know what? I should turn here and not here. I should go to this restaurant, not this restaurant. Or, in other words, I'm still making decisions. Whereas used to, when I was a Christian, I would have thought to myself, or prayed, right? God, lead me. And then I felt this impression of go right, not left. And now I'm a non believer, I'm agnostic, atheist as it relates to the Bible God. I still have those things. Now, it's not God, it's just me talking to myself. And I've just become fully aware of that. Because listen, if you were actually talking to a divine being, wouldn't that divine being know all of the mysteries of the universe? Couldn't this divine being tell you things that literally would create the most beautiful and wonderful life, which stocks to invest in, right? What the lottery numbers are, or to do a certain thing to avoid the crash or the tragedy, that Christians have just as many tragedies in their life as do unbelievers. Christians have just as many sicknesses and diseases as unbelievers do. Christians have just as much calamity, mishaps, mistakes, addictions, birth defects, disabilities as unbelievers do. And wouldn't you think if you actually did really have a relationship, well, let me just not put it on you. Let me just say to myself, had I really had a relationship with God, well, one, do you think I would be where I am today better off as an unbeliever? Like, do you think that if I truly had a real relationship with a divine God that did anything for anybody at any point ever, how could you ever leave that? That wouldn't even make sense. That if you genuinely had for real a relationship with a divine being like the God of the Bible, which, that gets, I'm making a lot of assumptions here. Obviously, there is no God, but I view the God of the Bible, the one that people made up, as just terrible, horrendous. I mean, just look at the Bible. Just read it. If you read it, that God, and even Christians will admit and say, oh, yeah, the Old Testament God, he was pretty angry and pretty whatever. Well, doesn't the Bible say he changes not? So the same God that was in the Old Testament is the same one in the New Testament. And then you get into all the goofiness about the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And if they're all one, then if if Jesus is actually God in the flesh, then God killed not his son, but killed himself. So it was kind of like suicide. But that had to be done to protect himself from himself and to protect us from. I don't get it, right? I used to, when I was a Christian, I did all those mental gymnastics and made it make sense to me. And now that I have walked away and removed the rose colored glasses, pulled the curtain back to see who's behind the it's like, oh, this is ridiculous. I just can't believe that I fell for all this stuff. Totally, you're gonna squirrel. I won't forget where I'm going. I won't. There was this video, and if I can find it, I'll link it in the description here. It was this video of someone interviewing people on the street, and particularly, and I don't want to get into who they were voting for, but they had a particular candidate that they were 100%, woo, this person, I love this person. They're great. They're awesome. And so they would give these terrible things that their own candidate had done or said, or the behavior of that candidate, but they just lied and said it was the opponent. So they told the situation or the behavior of their candidate, but said it was the opposing. And it was fascinating how people would, when they said, here's the behavior of the opposing candidate, they were just lambashing. And then when they said, oh, I'm sorry, that was actually your candidate, they changed their tune. It was fascinating. I mean, absolutely fascinating to me to see people right before your eyes hear information that they thought was from the opposing candidate. So they just, that's despicable. Of course, that's true. What a loser, blah, 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 blah. And then when they said, no, oh, whoops, no, I'm sorry, that was your candidate that actually did that. Well, no one's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. It's like, oh, wow. Wow. That's what's going on in Christianity. That is what is going on. It's confirmation bias. You're in an echo chamber. You so are convinced in this God existing that in the face of zero evidence to support that, you support it nonetheless. Just like the political sphere. It's like your candidate can do no wrong. But if the wrong is done by the opponent, oh, I can't believe it. What a loser. You see the same thing when it comes to religion. It's just absolutely wild to me. All right, so let's get back on target here. So when you think of having a relationship with God, again, you don't have a relationship with God. You just don't. You have a relationship with yourself. Who do you pray to? I'm praying to God. No, you're not. You're praying to yourself. Okay? Who's answering your prayers? Random luck. Like it's random, right? Come on. I can talk about my own story. I have prayed. I spent my 48 years. I've prayed for things over and over. And just like you would do, or just like what would happen if you prayed to Christopher Hitchens or prayed to Abraham Lincoln or prayed to whoever, Elvis, it is random. It's like flipping a quarter. Sometimes you pray for what you want. Sometimes when you pray for what you want, sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you don't get what you want. I mean, it's just, there's no, like, they've done research on prayer and it's absolutely 100% just random. There is no, prayer doesn't work. I mean, it just doesn't. Now, I believe there is some power in meditation and calming the mind and saying certain things to motivate yourself, like encouragement and all that, all that stuff. To me, that's the part of prayer that I would actually defend. The part that I just shake my head at is like that you're praying to some divine being. That divine being is sending an angel to come down and mess with some stuff. Like 100% that is false. That's not happening. It's just not. Research has even proven that out. It's 100% it does not work. So, but I did a video on why I don't believe in prayer, but why I still pray. Because I talk about the good parts of what I just highlighted a second ago. Saying good, positive things, being hope-filled, encouraging, inspiring. All those things are great. And oftentimes we need to do that to ourselves. So anyway, who do you have a relationship with? If you're a Christian, who do you have a relationship with? Yourself. Now, oftentimes, the better nature of yourself, like there's this voice in your head that says, give that dollar to that homeless person. Sometimes it doesn't do that, but sometimes it does for whatever reason. Why? Because you associate God with charity. You associate God, most likely, if you're the kind of Christian that I was, anytime I've heard a voice in my head to do something that I determined would be good, sacrificial, loving, forgiving, merciful, all that stuff, I aspired to do it. It's the same as I am now, except now I just recognize the truth. That's just my better nature. That's just that better side of me that's encouraging me to go work at the soup kitchen and feed the homeless. That's not God. That's just that part of me that wants to do good in this world for fellow humans. And it's unfortunately it took me all this time. Here I am, 55, finally realizing, oh, it wasn't God. It was my own nature. Now, my nature was definitely shaped by my Christian upbringing and my particular version of Christianity, that fundamental literalist type group, but also there was a huge emphasis on helping the poor, doing good to those who curse you, loving your enemy, love, kindness, grace, forgiveness, like all those things. Those things are still ingrained in me. I just realized it's not God. It's not God moving on me, or it's not the Holy Spirit or the conviction of the Holy Spirit to lead me down a path to do good. And if I ever feel like doing bad, that it's the devil. No, there's no such thing as the devil. There's no such thing as God. Now, I'm agnostic because maybe there's some being out there, but clearly, just look around. He's absent. Like, come on, can you just be honest for just a second and just be real here? That's the thing about myself when I was a Christian. I could never really be honest, because when you look at the world, there's so many wonderful and good things going on. Of course, I'm living in America. I make a good living. How could things not be that great for, those few things that were just the luck of the draw, right? I could have been born in a third world country or in a war-torn country, or, it's just, I got lucky, right? And if you have a pretty good life, you just got lucky. I know you think God's blessing you or whatever. He's not. It's just, you're probably making good decisions. You're probably living a good life. You're making good investments. You have a good job. You made a good choice on a mate. You've made some good decisions, and it's working out for you. Here's what I know for a fact, and I've experienced it just firsthand, right? Firsthand. I was a Christian for 48 years of my life. Okay, I mean, I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 7, so I'm subtracting that because I didn't get born again until I was 7. Anyway, I'm 55, so I spent 48 to 49 years really of my life living a sold out, radical, Jesus loving, crazy Christian life. And it was a pretty good life, right? I mean, I don't really have any complaints outside of the shame, the guilt, and all the toxicity and the trauma and all the nutty stuff that I've had to unwind and undo and deconstruct over the last 6 years. But here I am. I've been living over the last 6 years a deconstructed, non-believer, unbeliever, non-Christian, agnostic, atheist life, and I'm happier. I'm more fulfilled. I still have #blessed. Good things happen to me all the time. My business is growing. My wife and I are doing wonderful. My kids are doing great. The pets are happy. Like life is good. Now, I don't take that for granted. At least I sure hope not. I mean, because I realize I'm just really lucky right now. Now, granted, I think that we undermine where that comes from, right? I mean, I'm making good decisions, or I'm trying to make really good decisions in my life. I read books to help me be a better communicator with my wife, or more thoughtful, or more loving, or more kind and caring, and like all the things that's what's making life good. It's not that God is pouring out a blessing on my life. It's just when you live your life in such a way where you're creating a reward space. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? It's very natural. Like people say, everything happens for a reason. Like, well, not in the way you're saying it. No, not everything happens for a reason. Like you wrecked your car so that you could get in the hospital, so you could be in that hospital room next to that girl who then, you guys talked and then you guys started dating and then you got married and everything happens for a reason. I got in a wreck so I can find my wife. Okay, don't you think there's better ways to meet a wife than God wrecked your car and nearly killed you in order to get you to meet Sally whenever you could have just met her in aisle 2 at Trader Joe's next to the tasty treats? I mean, there could have been a much better, much easier way, less traumatic. That's what I'm so shocked at when people say everything happened for a reason. That's just, I find that just so curious because I'm like, why is it always the tragic stuff or the really horrendous traumatic things that's God? Everything happens for a reason. You fell off that ladder and broke both your legs so that you could meet whatever, the love of your life. That's weird. Couldn't you just met her like because it's like something normal? Anyway, that's so freaking curious to me. But when everything happens for a reason, well, yeah, okay, you wrecked the car for a reason, right? You were texting and driving, so that car crash happened for a reason, the reason which you were texting, right? That okay. So there's that. But you don't have a relationship with God. You just don't. You have a relationship with yourself. I now realize I never had a relationship with God. Now, some of the Christians out there are going to be like, exactly. I've been trying to say that in the comments below, I've been saying Timmy never had a relationship with God. Otherwise, he never would have left. Guess what? Here, look at me real quick. You don't have a relationship with God either. Nor do you. Nor you don't, Richard. You don't, Sally. You don't, Mike. You don't, Brian. Michael. Tim. Evan. Aaron. Jackie. Like, none of you have a relationship. Becky. None of you have a relationship with God. You don't. You have a relationship with an imaginary, make-believe, invisible friend. And guess who that friend is? Yourself. Okay? And this is true of everyone. And this is also true why we see different religions developing differently all around the world. And we've had some, I don't even know, I forget what the number is, but some 10,000 major religions that have come and gone over the history of mankind. So religions come and go. I did a video on this that Christianity will one day go away. 100%, it definitely will. There will come a time where it will die away. Now, there may be a small little remnant of a few people that are still holding on, the dystopian kind of a thing where, they'll be living underground down in the tunnels under Union, in New York City, holding together strong for this make-believe Christian God. But nobody has a relationship with God. Not a single person. No one does. Now, they might have a relationship with something that they think is God or that they call God. It'd be like this. It'd be like saying this. I have a personal relationship with Superman. You do? So, really? You talking about the character? Like the actor that plays Superman? Or you mean like literally you have a relationship with Superman, like the real like Superman? Like, of course you don't. Of course you don't have a relationship with Superman. Just like you don't have a relationship with God or Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad, or you don't have a relationship with any of those gods. They don't exist. Now, here's what's funny. I could do a video. My nose is running for some reason. Which is so funny because, right, like Christians, if I was to bump into a Christian on the street, and if I said, I have a relationship with Zeus, they would laugh. They'd be like, this idiot. This fool, doesn't he know that Jesus and Jehovah is the one true God and Zeus isn't real? It's a made up thing. Which is that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what's going on with them, with you, if you're a Christian. It's like someone saying they have a relationship with Zeus. You don't have a relationship with this God that you think you have a relationship with. You just have a relationship with yourself. You're praying to yourself, you're talking to yourself, you're being guided by yourself, you're being led by yourself, you're being called by yourself. These are all things just going on in your own mind. And it bears repeating. I spent most all of my life as a Christian having God talk to me. Now that I'm not a Christian, I still have the voice in my head. I just realize it's my voice. It's me. It's always been me. It was always me. This voice never gave me any information that could have come from anywhere else other than from me. Like, I was never imparted or given knowledge of things that were unknown by humanity, and yet God, right? If God exists, right? God knows everything. I was never imparted any knowledge beyond the knowledge of what I already had in my head. Now, I want to say something here, because there are some instances in my life when I was a Christian where I would be praying for someone and I would sense something in how I would say it then is I'd sense something in my spirit or something in my heart. And in particular, I can just tell you a case in point of a situation. I was praying for this woman and I could tell she was very distraught and she was having trouble forgiving herself. Well, instantly, probably even now, you who aren't Christian, or maybe you are a Christian, but are or aren't, doesn't matter. As a human, a kind, caring human, you instantly kind of maybe have a sense of what she might have done in her younger years that she still carries that weight from. An abortion, right? Probably that was what was in your mind. Well, when I was praying for her, that's what bubbled up. Why? How? Was that God? No. Me personally, and this is just I don't know if it's what's called a gift or if it's, I don't mean like a spiritual gift. I just mean like some people seem to be somewhat intuitive. Some people seem to be able to read body language better. Some people can seem to kind of get a sense of what's going on. I don't know what that's called, but just, like when I meet people, I can like feel, oh, they're sad. I can tell they're really sad right now. Or I can meet people and be like, man, something's off. Like something's going on. Okay. I've always had that. I've just always had that. So if you're, cuss and discuss it below, make comments below. If you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist or, a scientist in some way and can tell us what that is exactly. I don't know exactly what that is. I just know that I've always been that way. Okay. Ever since earliest I can remember. And again, when I was a Christian, I thought it was the Holy Spirit. I thought it was more mystical. Now I look at it as just a natural ability, much like a friend that I have is a magician. He's also works as a mentalist. And he's told me many times, he goes, I know people think I'm mystical and magical. He goes, I'm not. I'm trained to be able to deceive people and to get them to tell me things without them knowing they're telling me and all this stuff. And that was so, what's the word? It was just so helpful to me when he said that. I was like, interesting. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, Timmy, people think I'm psychic. I'm like, really? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, because I can deceive you. I can make you think I'm telling you things that I shouldn't be able to know. He goes, but I'm asking the right questions. I'm collecting information. And he's like, I'm not a psychic. He goes, I just have this talent, really, just like someone can play the piano so beautifully and it's just like magical, and they can sing like an angel. Like my wife just sings. It's like I can't believe that voice, that note is coming out of her mouth. That is crazy, right? Like, it's like awe inspiring. Well, he said it's the same way with his talent. He said, I'm just talented at this. Therefore, it creates awe and wonder and whoa. And since people can't understand it, it instantly goes into the realm of mystical. So, anyway, I told this to this person and I said, you're forgiven. God wanted me to tell you that you're forgiven for what you did when you were a teenager, all that stuff. Now, clearly now as an unbeliever, I realized that was just a stab in the dark. That was just an educated guess. You know what I mean? Like I know what that is now, okay? Because also there were other times that I would say things and I was wrong. Like I missed it. My perception was a little off. Um, and right. So, but what I did as a Christian though was I only focused on the times that I got it right, which then made me seem like a mystical, magical God man, right? Very arrogant. I can't even tell you. You're probably like, no, I can imagine, Timmy. I was extremely arrogant as a Christian, just because I thought I knew it all and I had the answers to all of life, and I knew how you needed to live. I knew how I needed to live, and I knew the truth of God of the universe. And I was created by this God. I was very special. I was very anointed by Him and put in this world for a specific purpose and all that stuff. So I've thought very highly of myself. Now, I mean, clearly, obviously, to do even what I'm doing now, I have to have some self-confidence and a little bit of an ego and all that. Hello, I'm very aware of that. I've been to therapy. I know myself. Um, but I think what I've learned is humility is absolutely critically important, because also I now realize this wasn't like God, I'm so special that God gifted me with this life that I have. It's just luck. Like, I am so lucky to be alive. I'm so lucky to be able to make videos and for people to want to even listen to this, my thoughts and my perspectives and my story. And I read most of the comments. I don't get to all of them, but I read most of them, and I just get such wonderful comments from people that man just pour out their heart story, and how my videos are connecting with them, and how that they're a breath of fresh air for them, and they appreciate my humor, and which is just my style. I was like this as a preacher. When I was a pastor, I was always cracking jokes. It's just kind of my way. I like making fun of myself. I like making fun of other people. It's just what I like to do. So it's just, I feel so blessed. Hashtag blessed. I feel so lucky to have the life that I have, right? And I try not to take it for granted. I mean, hello, come on, let's just be honest. It could all change in a moment, right? Like, things can change, and out of left field, life is definitely not always fair. Like, we all know that, right? I had a friend that had their child got deathly ill and had to do an amputation, and like, it's like, oh man, like, oh, you wish there was a God. Honestly, there are times that I'm like, I wish there was a God, but not like the God of the Bible, because that one doesn't ever show up. But I wish there was a God that actually would heal children, would help families that need it, right? Like, I find it so terrible that I could be a better God than the God of the Bible. You could too. And I know Christians will try to, nail me to the cross for, saying that. But it's just true. I believe they could be a better God, right? I mean, who wouldn't heal an innocent child, right? That again, that was one of the just deal breakers for me. I'm like, I can't serve a God that's going to allow children to suffer needlessly. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not. That's crazy. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, I never had a relationship with God. I always had just a relationship with myself. You, if you're a Christian, do not have a relationship with God. You only have a relationship with yourself. When you pray, you're praying to yourself. It's all your own monologue. Okay? Think about it. you can't do anything mystical or magical. You can't. I tried. I remember when I was a Christian. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh your head off when I say this. I've never really admitted to this. Of course, not on my podcast here on my show. I tried to walk on water. You say, no, you didn't. Oh, yes, I did. Many times. Many times I tried to walk on water. And you're going to laugh. I was so sincere. I would pray. I would fast. I would just purify myself of all evil thoughts, all everything. And I would start taking a step and then sunk, every time. But I really tried. Because I thought, I have enough faith. If I can just believe by faith, anything is possible. Think about your life as a Christian. Just think about your life. And I know you think you have some wonderful things that God has done for you, wonderful blessings that God has done for you. Listen, I've had wonderful things happen in my life. I don't believe in God. And so these wonderful things, why am I having wonderful things happen in my life? Also bad things. I have both, just like everybody. But specifically as an unbeliever, how is it that I have anything ever good happen to me? And how is it that you as a Christian have anything other than good happen to you? Why do you have bad also? Why do you have bad things that happen to you? Where's your God? Why can't your God stop those bad things or fix those problems that you need fixed? Because that God doesn't exist. That's why. And you only have the power that you have in your own mind. I've had Christians tell me, well, God help me get free from this addiction. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. It wasn't God that helped you get free from that addiction. It was your belief in something that you thought was helping you get right. You thought you were believing in something outside yourself that was helping you, and you really believed it so deeply. But ultimately, no, you got yourself free from that addiction. That's just a fact. That's just true. And here's how we know it's true. Here's how we know that is actually true. People get free from addictions with other religions. Are you gonna say, well, that's not true? Muhammad can't help you get free from addictions. Muhammad can't and this can't help you. Only Jesus can help you. Well, that's just not true, though. That's just not true. Come on, you got to be honest. That's just not a true statement. But if we saw in life that only Christians could get free from addictions through Jesus, well, then that would be something. That would, I'm going to just, hey, hands up. That would be something worthy of looking at, and it would change my mind. If I saw that, man, you know what? People that want to get free from addictions, man, when they turn to Jesus, it happens. But we all know some people get free, some people don't. Whether they're Christian or not Christian. Why? Because it's not God, it's you. You don't have a relationship with God. You have a relationship with you, and you have a relationship with the you that you think is God. But it's not God, it's you. And the sooner that you can recognize that it's you and not God, you'll be better off. You won't have to hide. There'll be no shame and guilt. I'm going to do a video, maybe the next time I post, a video about that, about how Christianity forces people to hide. Look up Ravi Zachariah. Google Ravi Zachariah. He was a preacher that I listened to for years. I used to love Ravi Zachariah. Come to find out, that guy he's dead now, but he was living a terrible life, a double life. The guy was having sex with massage therapists and paying massage therapists to do things. And this guy was a sham, a total con artist, a total Schindler. This guy was a fool. And he had everybody fooled. He even had me fooled. I used to listen to him all the time. He was an apologetic type preacher, like really good with an accent, so it even made him sound more interesting. The guy was a total sham, and he got away with it for 74 years. Just crazy, man. Just crazy. Anyway, I want to do a video, not just about him and his craziness, but how it makes sense. He couldn't be honest with all his sexual deviance. He had to hide it and lie and be deceptive and undermine and lie and all that stuff. Yet his what he put out into the world was righteousness and God and da da da. How could God allow that to happen? Because there is no God. That's how. That's so easy. Because if there really was a real God, God wouldn't allow that. Wouldn't allow someone to deceive people, hurt people, lie, steal money that was given to the ministry, all this shady crap that was going on. He even had massage therapists that he paid their rent so that they would be always available for his sexual weirdness. It's just crazy. Now, let me just say, just him living like that isn't proof that there is no God. Okay, I'm not trying to say that because that'd be ridiculous. I would never say that because that doesn't make sense. Just because an atheist would do something bad doesn't mean that, all atheists are bad. They should serve God, so they won't do bad things. Well, we just know that logic doesn't even make sense. So I'm not trying to make the logical leap that because one of God's finest, one of God's preachers who was a lying, cheating, sexual deviant, lying piece of crap, that then therefore there is no God. I'm definitely not saying that. But it just goes to show you that God couldn't do anything. Clearly, like God couldn't do anything. God couldn't do anything. Why? Because Ravi Zachariah didn't do anything. Only you can control yourself. God can't control you. God doesn't make people do stuff. Why? Because there is no God. You can make yourself do stuff. You can make better decisions. You can turn into your better part of yourself and do things that are better for you, better for your neighbors, better for humanity, better for the earth. But that's all, it's all you. Okay. All right. Maybe I'll do more on this later. Maybe I'll have a psychologist on here and have them talk about what's going on in people's minds. But again, I can only talk from firsthand experience because I've lived that Christian life, fully devoted. I wasn't a Sunday Christian. I was 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year type of Christian. Okay. And now I am not a Christian. I'm agnostic, atheist as it relates to the Bible God. And yet still I feel and live my life with conversations and things that'll pop into my head and go, that is a good idea. I should write that down. Or, oh yeah, you know what? That'd be a good idea if I invested in this or did this, or if I still have those things going on. So clearly I recognize, so that was always just me. And same with you. All right, peace.